Hello guys, in this video I'd like to show you how your Flask app could be hacked if not careful. So let's first draft a very quick Flask app to introduce the server-side template injection vulnerability that might have been available, might have been possibly available in your Python and Flask web application. So first let's import, something wrong with my camera here. So first, let's import from Flask. Import Flask like this. Now let's create an app instance, which would be equal to Flask name. And now let's create app route, some index route for our application, and the path would be just a bare slash here. So let's call this dev route, and here we want to return templates. So before we can return templates, we need to first import from Flask import render template and return render template. Let's call this index.html. So now let's actually create a templates folder here, and here would be our file called index.html. So the index.html is a really common name for the root file within your web application. So we will be exploiting this sort of thing later on in this video. So let's actually create a very simple header here, saying like this app thinks it's pretty secure. Okay, and now let's actually try to run our application here. Well, but before that we also need to provide a driver for it. So I say if name equals to main, and we simply say app.run and debug equals to true. So now I just open the console in the current working directory where my application lives, and simply say python3 app.py. By default the server is started at the port number 5000, so let's go there and see what we got there. So this is our index. Well, doesn't care about HTML here, CSS and whatever styling and being regarding pretty good looking of this application. So we just need this as the proof of concept. So, and now if we just navigate to somewhere, it would give us an error, not found. So usually there are error handlers that actually redirect you to the specific page when every time when page not found 404 error is encountered. So when we're dealing with Flask, this usually done as follows. So we're declaring the error handler and passing the value of 404 here, and let's create dev page not found, and we also need to pass the error here. So well, let's actually return just the bare string here like this, just to make sure if it works or not. So here now we're handling our 404 error, 404 error, so 404. Okay, let's call it that way. But usually it's good idea to create. Well, actually that's the best practice, to create a separate template file, and the templates folder and just return the regular render template function here. But at some point it might be possible that for some reason, for some weird reason, while developer was busy or whatever, so just he could have done this sort of disaster. So he could have said from Flask import render template string like this, and here he could have just returned render template string and the template itself, and now let's define the template variable basically here. So say template equals, and let's create the h1 here saying oops, this page doesn't exist. Okay, and let's update. And the other thing, so let's assume that here he decided to actually show the user what particular URL endpoint is not available for to go there. Actually, I know this might seem really weird, but again, I just want to say that I'm doing this just as a proof of concept. So here, well, the very best and safe practice when dealing with Flask is to use the curly braces. And if you will use curly braces to encapsulate some sort of a variable, then that's just, well, at least it seems to be pretty safe. But let's assume that that developer decided to use string concatenation and just use this %s format here, sort of format, and he wants to concatenate requested URL here. So, and he just and if we just update, okay, so request is not. So first we need to from Flask import request like this. Okay. Okay, and you know, like probably nowadays this issue has already been solved pretty well. So if we just try some sort of XSS injection here, saying script alert XSS, then actually nothing happens because this string has been encoded. But if for some reason that weird developer would also import urllib, and if he's completely crazy, that he would definitely do the following. He would say urllib dot parse dot unquote, and if we just update this one more time, that we see that already our application now is available to make cross-site scripting injections, is available for cross-site script injections. But that's the very least evil of any of possible evils. So now actually we're about to start hacking this site, and I just want to show you what a big what an amazing, fantastic damage could have been done to your site if it has this sort of vulnerability. So we don't really need any cross-server, cross-site scriptings here. Instead, we can use what is known as Flask template injection. So we know that Flask evaluates the Python variables, so within this double curly braces. So let's print a very simple expression here, say 7 multiplied by 7, and suddenly we see that Flask did evaluate the expression that we provided, and he multiplied 7 by 7, and here we got 49. So this is the very introduction of the vulnerability I was going to talk about in this video. So if you ever face this sort of vulnerability, whatever, just to make it clear how dangerous this could have been, let's actually dive deeper to see what can happen. So you know, like say the string. So here I've declared with this two single quotes, I've declared a string, and in Python it's an object. So every object in Python has so-called class attribute. So if we just let me just copy this. So if we just have a look at the class of the particular input we've provided, we see that it's the class of string. But even worse thing is actually what we can also do. We can also use what is known as MRO attribute, which stands for, let me just quickly reference this, method resolution order. So, and if it just so what does it basically show? It shows things that the string class actually uses. And if we just list, and here we see that it uses the class of object, and if we just try to list the subclasses of this particular element, we'll see basically the following. So here, if I just say again MRO, and see here it's 0, 1, so it's the index of 1, and we just want to put the index of 1 here, and then we want to see the subclasses like this, and let me just copy this string as well. And here we see a very big list of subclasses. And if we just try to find something interesting here, so what we would like what kind of method we would like to use as a hackers if we would like to make some damage for the server where the application is running. Of course, the very best opportunity for us would be being available to execute bash console commands directly on the server. And if you just look for something related to open. So when I was first doing this, I was trying to find something related to file writing and reading functionality. But you know, eventually I found this subprocess popen class, this method, which allows us to execute bash console commands directly on the server. So this sort of list would definitely be different in different environments. So this particular one is specific to my Linux Mint 19.1 Tessa environment with a Python 3.6.8 or 9. I don't remember what's the version of my Python. So we can actually, if only we could have known the index of this particular element, in that case we could have actually execute whatever commands we want. So probably the very simplest way of getting this index is just to write a little scraper that would go to this specific URL and then retrieve this sort of list, and then actually convert this string input to the list, delimiting it by commas, and find the index of this one. So let's actually do what I've just said, and for that purpose, well, I don't really want to create that script file to extract the index of the needed method here in the application. So I would simply create a file on my desktop. Oh, there's some sort of a bug here. Okay, so I just create a file called hack.py and open this as well. So we also would need another terminal open at our desktop. Okay, so my computer is horribly lagging. Well, it's not anymore. Okay, so let's import our libraries, requests, and beautiful soup that we used to import while doing web scraping. So say request, and from bs4 import beautiful soup. Now let's create a simple response object equals to requests.get, and here we need to specify. Okay, so let me just specify this URL with this malicious payload we've just created here. And okay, so it already uses an encoded version, so well, let me just show let me just quickly check that out if it works or not. So just want to print response.text save and -3 hack.py. Okay, so something is wrong here. Okay, so that's actually, well, probably that's because the request is encoding stuff itself, so we need to provide the very output as is. Okay, let's try this one more time. Okay, so some sort of unexpected dot here. Okay, let me quickly check that out. Okay guys, just hold on a sec. Okay guys, I'm sorry, just this was the issue was with double quotes and single quotes, so let me just trying this just kind of one more time. Okay, so we need class dot ro the first index dot subclasses like this. So now this should work. Okay, subclasses is typo there. Okay, so attribute. Oh, it's not this. It's not like this, but like this. Okay, so here we have our output, and now let's actually use beautiful soup to parse this content. So content equals beautiful soup and response.text as an argument, and then we'll use the LXML parser here. So now let's print the content. Okay, and now we need, so if we just have a look at the source code of this page, we will see that the information we need is stored at the only h3 tag. So well, let's, I don't know how to call this, let's call this hack equals content dot find. We need to find the only element h3 dot text, and let's actually print the hack. Save. Okay, so now it did automatically encode it back, so decoded it decoded the content automatically. And now we need actually to make a couple more things. So here we actually want to convert this to a dictionary, to a list, to a Python list, to be able to iterate over to find the index of the method that we need. Remember, we're looking for the index of subprocess.popen. So first we need to, so as far as it was rendered as a Python list here, so we need first to get rid of this particular square brackets. So we need to oh my god, forgot that. Strip those square brackets, and then we need to split by the comma. So if we now bring the hack one more time, then we will see that now it's the type of dictionary. It's the type of Python list. So now this means that we can iterate over the hack list. So say for item in hack, like this, and we say if we're looking for the string subprocess dot popen in basically in item. In this case we want to print the item. So let's see if we'll find our subprocess method. Okay, so we got it. And now the very last thing we need here is actually to find the corresponding method, the corresponding index. So we can also specify the index here, and we can see, oh, it's not the index, a little bit different. For index in range from 0 to len of hack. Now, okay, not the item. In hack index, like this, print the hack index and the index itself, and we have the index of 283. So what this means to us, so this means something really cool here. So if we just go back to our browser and let's actually grab this URL again. So we just go back to our browser here, and here, so remember that subclasses is a list. So if you just reference the 283 index and just click enter here, then we see that it's we just hit the method which is code subprocess popen. So if I just do this one more time, so 283, so now we can specify the parameters. So let's have a quick look. What is subprocess dot from the Python documentation. So here let's look for this. So here is the class definition. So we have the args, buff size, lots of attributes, but the very main thing that we need here, I really didn't find that somewhere in the documentation. So instead of providing the arguments, we can just provide the bare string as the first argument to the subprocess.popen, but in that case we need to specify this one, shell equals to true. So that's the exact parameter we need to pass. So we just do the following. So here let's try to, well, I just say echo. So that's the standard Linux command to print something to console. And now I'm using single quotes, and let's say hello from hello, you have just been hacked. And we want to store this output to the file, and on Linux system, well, basically that's probably the same on Windows as well. We can use this greater than sign and then provide the file name where we want to store this output. But in our case, we don't really need to overwrite, but instead we need to append to the file. So if you just append this, we want to append this string to the file that is located in templates. So we know, if we know this is the Flask application, and well, by default we know that, and also we can assume that there will be a file called index.html. So here I specify index.html, and so okay, so this was echo, and now I need to specify the second parameter. So I say shell equals to true, like this. And I hope that if we now go to the very root page here to the index, yes, hello, you've been just hacked. This is it, guys. So using the subprocess.popen function, we can actually execute bash console commands on the server we're working with, basically. So imagine that you can write, you can store whatever Python script on the server, and also using the subprocess.popen you can run that script as well. So basically that's almost like you have an SSH access to the server. So just to show you how dangerous this could be, how dangerous this vulnerability could be. So this is it for this video, and at the very end I just want to tell you that first when you're first, better just don't use this render template string. So just use render template and don't be lazy to create a new file called say 404.html and provide the content there. And the second thing, never use string concatenation. So instead use the regular Python curly braces. No, that is more or less secure. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and found this interesting and learned something from this. But remember, I did show you this not for you to start hacking somebody's Flask applications. Please don't do that. That's not good from the ethical perspective. And I've just shown you this as the web developers, so you could have been aware of what potential security vulnerabilities you might have encountered while creating your own Flask applications, and how exactly hackers can attack your site and basically getting the full access to the server where your application is running. Guys, I know that this video is kind of new sort of genre for my particular YouTube channel, so I'm really wondering about your feedbacks. So please let me know in the commentaries if you did like this or not, and if you want to see more hacking videos on this channel. So this is it now, so until the next time, and take care.